reports from the world's second largest continent.
Hello, I'm Alison Lagrange. A very warm welcome from Durban, South Africa.
We get you the news and the newsmakers from Africa. From elections to climate change to innovations and opportunities. As the world's attention shifts, we report from Africa, the heart of the global south.
Join me every weekday live on Firstpost.
Hello and welcome to Firstpost Africa, where we get you the top stories from the continent and from across the world. I am Gursheen Garland and here are the top headlines. Tens of thousands flee their homes as border clashes between Thailand and Cambodia enter a second day, sparking fears of a wider conflict. Iran rejects calls to extend a UN resolution backing the 2015 nuclear deal as it opened first face-to-face talks with Western powers in Istanbul since last month's bombings by Israel and the US. Palestinian statehood divides Europe. After France's acceptance, Germany refuses to recognize a Palestinian state, saying it has no short-term plans for it. India successfully test fires a drone-launched missile in the southern state of Andhra Pradesh. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh hails it as a major boost to the nation's defence capabilities. And hundreds of Iraqis protest against severe water shortages exacerbated by the summer's sweltering heat in the central Babil province. Our top story is on Russia's growing footprint in Africa. Russia is tightening its grip on the continent, particularly in the Sahel region, where a new force called Africa Corps has replaced the Wagner mercenary group. Analysts say this marks a major shift in Moscow's military and geopolitical strategy for Africa. Now, Africa Corps officially took over in Mali after Wagner withdrew in June this year. The move sparked speculation as it followed heavy Wagner losses to terror groups in Mali. But analysts say this is part of Russia's plan to expand its military footprint in the Sahel. Now, before explaining how, let's understand what is Wagner and what is Africa Corps. Wagner is a mercenary group. It is semi-private with ambiguous ties to the Kremlin. Africa Corps, on the other hand, is fully state-controlled under Russia's defense ministry and links to the national intelligence. Now, Wagner is mostly operated covertly, but Africa Corps is a formal institutional force deployed to expand Moscow's influence in Africa, especially in the Sahel. Africa Corps was formed after Yevgeny Prigozhin, the Wagner chief who died in a plane crash in August 2023, 2 months after his mutiny against the Kremlin. The Kremlin then absorbed Wagner's operations into direct state control. A new report from the Timbuktu Institute says Africa Corps marks an unprecedented strategy to strengthen Russian influence in the Sahel. The report highlights Russia's Africa strategy that rests on 4 pillars: protecting military regimes, securing resources like gold refineries, building infrastructure and energy projects, and undermining Western influence, as well as challenging the Ukrainian presence. Africa Corps is working to implement this strategy, particularly in Mali. As per the report, Russian bases near Mali have been upgraded with armored vehicles, howitzers, and advanced bombers. In fact, Africa Corps is also training local forces and protecting leaders and key infrastructure. About 70 to 80% of Africa Corps personnel are reportedly Wagner veterans. Human rights groups warn that it carries forward Wagner's legacy of atrocities, including massacres and torture. In parallel, Russian propaganda platforms like the African Initiative spread anti-Western narratives through local media, cultural programs, and disinformation campaigns. Experts warn that Russia's formal military presence through Africa Corps, combined with intense information warfare, is reshaping the balance of power in Africa. By backing coup-era regimes and countering Western influence, Moscow is positioning itself as a long-term player, setting the stage for possible future clashes with Ukraine and its allies in the Sahel. To understand more about Russia's new Africa strategy, we are joined by Ulf Lessing, head of Sahel program at Konrad Adenauer Foundation. And he is joining us live from Bamako, Mali. Mr. Lessing, welcome to Firstpost.
I think this transfer to the Africa Corps signals two things. First, Russia will stay engaged. It's now an official operation, not just rough mercenary gig. But it also means that Russia will, be a bit more organized and do less risky military operations like, Prigozhin and the Wagner Group done. They were basically Rambos trying to, fight jihadists in open battles, and were often associated with, abuses against civilians. And now, Russia taking over means that, Russia owns these operations. So there will be less risky operations, probably a focus more on training, providing equipment and protection service, but not fighting us as before. But, bottom line, Russia is going to stay here.
How is Russia using Africa Corps to strengthen its footprint amid rising threats like terrorism in the Sahel?
Yeah, it's mainly a tool, my personal opinion, to spread its narrative in the global south. So, Western countries are unwilling to work with the Malian army because they get accused from rights group of, abuses against civilians. Russia is filling that gap and uses that position also to, spread the narrative that it's a new partner without a colonial history like France that is supposedly more reliable than the Europeans.
And finally, how do you see Russia's presence in Africa affecting Western powers and the ongoing Ukraine war? Do you think Africa could emerge as the next geopolitical battleground?
It is already. You can see in the Sahel, Russia is active in Mali, but also in Niger, Burkina Faso. They're trying to go now to Chad. It's another Sahel state. So they use this area, which is kind of the southern border of Europe, to, spread their influence, propagate their narrative in the Ukraine conflict. And they wouldn't be too unhappy if there's also more, poverty-driven, migration from Africa through the Sahel to Europe, because this area, this region is a pathway for migrants to go north or west to reach Europe by boat. So that's the strategic thinking of Russia to be here in this region.
That was Ulf Lessing, head of Sahel program at Konrad Adenauer Foundation. Sir, thank you for speaking to Firstpost.
Welcome.
Our next story is from the Democratic Republic of Congo, where former Justice Minister is facing a corruption trial. DRC's former Justice Minister, Constant Mutamba, has pleaded not guilty to allegations of embezzling millions of dollars, including funds meant for war victims' reparations. The high-profile trial opened in Kinshasa on Wednesday, and the 37-year-old firebrand politician, who once called for the execution of corrupt officials, resigned last month amid a sweeping corruption probe. Prosecutors allege he illegally awarded a prison construction contract in the city of Kisangani and diverted nearly $20 million from a war reparations fund. According to prosecutors, the money was funneled to a shell company founded just last year with no staff or proper infrastructure. Now, the funds were originally paid to the DRC by Uganda to compensate Congolese victims of fighting during the Second Congo War. Mutamba underwent over 4 hours of intense questioning in a case described as a historic trial. He insists he is the victim of a political plot aimed at silencing his anti-corruption crusade, and that the money is still in the bank. Mutamba says the contract was approved by the Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers, and that the charges are politically motivated. Now Mutamba is a 37-year-old lawyer and politician. He served as Justice Minister from May 2024 to June 2025. He is also the founder of the Progressive Revolutionary Dynamic Movement and is known for hardline anti-corruption stance. He ran as a presidential candidate in December 2023 and even gained fame for fiery speeches targeting corrupt officials in Rwanda, which is accused of backing M23 rebels in DRC's east. As the trial began, Mutamba's supporters filled the courtroom, portraying him as a crusader challenging Congo's deep-rooted corruption. The next hearing is set for July 30 in what is shaping up to be one of DRC's most closely watched corruption trials. Now, even though the DR Congo ranks among the world's most corrupt countries as per reports, but Mutamba's trial is emerging as a test case for justice and political accountability in the DRC. Moving on to some news from West Africa, where Benin has appointed its ambassadors in the US. And these are American director Spike Lee and his author-producer wife, Tonya Lewis-Lee. The couple is expected to serve as thematic ambassadors. They are tasked with bringing people of African descent closer to their roots. In fact, the duo is also expected to raise awareness among people of African origin and support initiatives that promote their ties with Benin. President Patrice Talon's government said the move will help African descendants to reconnect with their historical, cultural and spiritual base. The agreement was reportedly finalized during the couple's visit to the country's capital, Cotonou, last week. Lauding the appointees, the Benin government highlighted the couple's long-standing commitment to justice, exceptional creativity and global reach, and even their role in shaping the contemporary narrative of the African diaspora, as the duo have been advocates for civil rights and social justice. Spike Lee is a well-known face in the US. His DNA analysis traced his father's lineage to Cameroon, while his mother's roots were from Sierra Leone. The filmmaker's work is often based on African American experiences and frequently explores themes of race, identity, and justice. But appointing Lee as Benin's ambassador is part of a wider initiative. Benin has also launched a website. It's a platform where people from enslaved Africans' lineage can apply for citizenship. Tonya Lewis-Lee was reportedly among hundreds of such applicants, and reports suggest that she received a favorable response. Last year, the Benin government also passed a law offering nationality to people with an African ancestor taken from their homeland in the transatlantic slave trade. In fact, Benin's coastline was once part of the Slave Coast, a major departure point for enslaved Africans during the 18th and 19th century, who were shipped across the Atlantic Ocean to the Americas. Between 1580 and 1727, the Kingdom of Wydad, located on the modern-day Benin coast, was a major slave trading center. It is estimated to have exported more than 1 million Africans to the US, the Caribbean, and Brazil. And now, Benin is hoping to bring their descendants back. The Talon government also hopes to encourage people of African descent to take citizenship where eligible. Now, this is not the first time. In 2019, Ghana also launched a similar initiative and named it Year of Return to invite members of the African diaspora to visit Ghana. The move primarily commemorated the 400th anniversary of the arrival of the first enslaved Africans in the US. And just like Ghana, Benin also hopes people of African descent to reclaim their heritage, because their visits could boost cultural tourism, a sector that Benin already wishes to promote. And finally, to our special segment, Resurgent Africa. Amid the coups and crises, there are many positive stories from Africa that often get overlooked, but not on this show. Amid the devastation of Sudan's civil war, a different sound echoed this week. The cheers of football fans replacing the gunfire. After 2 years of silence, the Sudan Elite League has returned, bringing a rare moment of hope, pride and unity in a nation torn apart by a bloody civil war. Here's our report on how football is sparking hope in war-torn Sudan.
In war-torn Sudan, where gunfire echoes daily, the sound of cheers briefly replaced the sound of bullets as the battlefield shifted to a football stadium. For the first time in 2 years, the Sudan Elite League has returned, bringing a rare moment of hope and unity amid bloodshed and chaos. This season kicked off in River Nile State, about 300 kilometers northeast of war-ravaged capital Khartoum. In the cities of Atbara, Berber, and Al-Damer, fans gathered in small stadiums, cheering on patched-up pitches. Despite drone strikes on Atbara's power stations and army bases, the region is still considered safer than the capital. The league reached a thrilling climax on Tuesday, with Sudan's most beloved rivals, Al Hilal and Al Merrikh, facing off in a title decider. Al Hilal emerged victorious, while second-placed Al Merrikh also qualified for the African Champions League.
We returned at an inopportune time, without any preparation or fitness training before the tournament. The pitches aren't ready for games. However, we are doing our best to make our fans happy and to give them something to cheer about during these difficult times in Sudan.
Until this season, both teams were forced to play abroad, even competing in Mauritania last year. Al Hilal had reached the African Champions League quarterfinals last year, cheered on by street celebrations back home.
The war affected Sudan in general, not just football. The whole of Sudan was affected by the war. We spent a long time playing outside Sudan. We played in the Mauritanian League last season. Thank God we returned home, and we are happy to be home, playing in front of our fans, to live the vibe of the Sudanese League once again.
But this year, though the players have returned home, the joy is bittersweet. Only 8 teams took part in this year's Sudan Elite League, down from 24, with most based in army-controlled areas. Hai al-Wadi from South Darfur's capital Naila had to train in Saudi Arabia, returning just weeks before the league began.
I can't believe that the country is safe again and the league is back. I hope it will be safer and more stable and we return to play in our hometown. We miss our fans. We miss our hometown. God willing, we will return soon to El Fasher and the fans there.
The Sudan Civil War began in 2023 as a power struggle between the army and the paramilitary RSF. It has killed tens of thousands and displaced millions. Darfur remains one of the war's worst-hit regions, with camps for the displaced bombed, besieged, and burned. Still, hope survives. For Sudan's football fans, this league is more than a game. It's a rare escape from the shadow of war, a reminder that spirit and passion can survive even in the darkest times.
We are extremely happy with the return of the Football League to Sudan and the return of teams like Al Hilal and Al Merrikh from Mauritania. It's a wonderful feeling to see Al Hilal players right in front of you, Mohamed Abdel Rahman, Khalid Bakit and the others. It's a wonderful feeling, it's indescribable.
The Sudan Football Association is already planning next season, hoping every team can one day return to its hometown. Amid all this devastation, a simple football match has become a symbol of resilience. A reminder that even in war, hope can still find a field to play on.
That's it on the show. We will see you again next week at the same time. Thanks for watching.